Peace and Islam. We back. Part 3 of the truth about the African slave trade. We're going to continue where we finished off last time. So a little bit more reading, then we'll get into a lot of pictures we're going to look at. We say the course where the fishing boats have their seats or base used to take the name of the fishing ground they frequented. So that's another way we find out a lot of these old place names and the business that took place in it by following the ship names and finding the ship names. Like, for example, again, go back to our old spot. We know a lot of the favorite nations of the Holy Roman Empire that became European countries, and the United States being the last of that group to get that status. You had ships would have the names of the ships as the place names. So I find a lot of these ships in what we call saints. And then they give us the name of one of the ships they call the good ship Jesus. We saw that in the last video, Bon Jesus, over here. But a place where the whole Holy Roman Empire had been at, and they know why, because of the treaties. Let me see. Up in this area, yeah. And you see all these different saints. And Saint Tommy. These old ship names. The Good Garden. Saint Raimundo. And you see names like Antonio. These the ship Saint Miguel. Santo Antonio, Saint Maria, on and on. Saint Gabriel. That telling us that we're in the area where a whole lot of trade and commerce going on. In Andalusia and Barbary Algarve, there were several Rio de Oro. I'm talking about Andalusia and Algarve, Barbary, the west of the Barbary. Because they went to the isthmus. So you got Rio de Oros over here just because they went to America. I mean, the isthmus you're talking about is right here with this Rio de Oro. Chavez called the Rio Grande Rio de Oro, the border between Mexico and United States. So even a Rio Grande been connected with us. It used to be called Rio de Oro, the river of gold. In order to understand what happened in that story, we gotta know exactly what happened. We gotta know what is a plantation. What these contracts doing? What's really going on? Instead of just giving us fantasy stories of people kidnapping other people by force and forcing them some way. It's way more intricate than that. So I'm gonna read this. business too. And again, Leon in Africa, how he get everything switched up. He called Senegal a desert and an Atlas people, and they really been a desert and an Andes people. So you see the switch from Santa Marta all the way across to North Africa. From this Senegal all the way to Senegal overseas. Santa Marta and Senegal. And you got the mountain called the Andes. He put it in the Atlas. So like that with a pen you get reconstructed. And look at Judah right there. You see Holy Land. Anywhere there's a Morocco or Fez, you have those biblical terms. It is likely that it was referring to distance and time by sea. A caravel went in 24 hours, while a canoe in 7 days. And the Dikar al-Aqwalim by Ishaq ibn al-Hassan al-Zayat, a treatise on universal geography composed around the 11th century. So old, very old. The climates are delimited by altitude hours of the day from the Ecuador, which means the equator. That's why we call it Ecuador. And then they go by climates. The world ain't going by the 7 continents. It went by whatever climate you in. Strabos, India measured from 20,000 to 30,000 stadia. Megasthenes affirms that in the southern part, the bears are heading Ursa. That's the star constellation Ursas are hidden, and the shadows are arranged on the opposite direction. East India does not exceed the equator. So that's again showing you that back in the day they had know about America. But the fact that we are under the spell of the 1492 lie, we must that they've been talking about India, they've been talking about America back then. They couldn't have been talking about East India because it don't exceed the equator. So we go back and look at these old books and stuff. Without that 1492 spell, we'll be able to find things like that all day long. Among those who participated figured Anton Martin Nieto. He was returning with us Valinel de Fezer, the war to the Portuguese and the Moor. They're using old Roman acts. When the Lepe captured him, Nieto had a part in the Buena Vista, which took on the Portuguese. So they fight in America, early America, and you see people getting captured, ransom. According to the chronicler, thanks to the naval galleys, the pirate Alvar Mendez could only capture the Andalusians and Los Rios, or Guinea, with the rebels, Los Rios, over here. Which would make sense, because even when I've been in school, I used to always think like in African American studies, they always telling me about these intelligent so-called blacks who is the most advanced people in Europe. So I was saying, well, how the hell all of a sudden the Spaniards more advanced than everybody? What happened to these? Couldn't they already not been in America and Andalusia at that time? They're supposed to be the most advanced people of Europeans, but the Europeans gonna get the credit for discovering it. So it always that makes sense to me that those people who they keep telling me about Karl Marx must be my ancestors, because cause I don't see none else. I don't see nobody else who they calling these advanced people around this so-called time of the European Dark Ages. So they must have been over here if they've been that smart. And that's who I must be us, from one of them people who been over here at that time. Who they calling Moors in Andalusia. Now I know that's true. Andalusia been a place where Moors from all over the world used to go. It's the middle part of the world, for one. And a lot of the trade and stuff just been being cut right here. It's like you putting the head of something bigger in a place. An embassy. The Straits always been important for world trade. So the one who got control of the Straits got control of the world trade. And ain't no reason for me to not believe that this side ain't even all to go. Negotiated the ransom in Palos. He was equaled at 100,000 maravedis and a horse, valued at 20,000, when justice kidnapped his captors. According to the document, when the navy for Guinea was established, Juan Moya agreed with Dr. de Lilo, our chancellor, and our council, that they had our power to create the said navy. So the captain of Charles de Valera, who was going to be captain, I brought him and others 2 white Moorish slaves from Arcila for rescue. And again, they calling them this. By the end of this, we're gonna see why you got basically you in Morocco right here. Arcila, you're talking about, is over here, somewhere over here. And we had the Mamelukos, who they calling the Indians, who been in Morocco. So they would have captured them, and they would have called them Moorish slave because they in Morocco. Everybody in Morocco is a citizen or subject of Morocco, one of the two. So the rescues, which we call Rekife, is where they want to make their stop at on this side. That's ready to ship out or ship in, which is rescue. They call them white Moorish. And they under the influence of Moors, obviously. They living in the Moorish kingdom. Palencia did not appear. In 1301, Palencia accused, and you see, we way before this 1492 bullshit they talking about. Palencia accuses the Marquis of Cadiz of having sent 2 galleys with notice to Fernando Gomez of the Armada that was being prepared. He forget that at that time he was the head of the horse of Juana and Andalusia, having not given obedience to the Catholic before the end of April 1476. And that's when Castile started to get into play more. Isabel started getting to play more. The medicals was the currency of Morocco, and the Cabo de Agua. That's all this over here. Saleh, Safi, and Azamor. It is mentioned by Batuta in the 13th century, and it appears in the 17th. So he's stole the money, stolen from the currency that they've been using in Andalusia been from here. These different kingdoms: Morocco, Cabo de Agua, Saleh, Safi. Petit Dieppe and Rio Fresco could have been in Cayenne and San Luis. And those old Norman ports. Chavez meetings mentions a Cabo Corso on the coast of the Maranon, around degrees being in the eastern end of Brazil, 2 degrees south of the point where the coast goes down. It coincides with Natal, which is a major city today. If it's a major city, they definitely deep into historical accounts. They just post skyscrapers everywhere around. Star Forts, of course. Cabo Frio, north of the Rio de Janeiro preserver's name. We know that, Cabo Frio. In the 16th century, it was from Santo Tome and Cape Verde. And maps of the 16th century find a river and a Cabo Deserto in the New Kingdom or Colombia. Chavez mentioned a Cabo Deserto in New Spain. The Chronicles of Guinea said that it is said that Henry the Navigator upon his death left the coast uncovered from 22 degrees to 8.5 degrees where Sierra Leone was. So showing he ever came to this western Sierra Leone, the old one. And and that debate where we talked about in the last video, another thing that been said, Umar Johnson says, tell a girl that she said the DNA test giving us terms that ain't even been used for a whole century or two, which is true. But then he said, which is also true, that yeah, they still had kingdoms there in West Africa. We still had kingdoms under different names, but I don't negate the fact that we relatives with them, which is also true. But you got to get the details of what those kingdoms were, right? If you just saying that, you still got to go get the truth of the matter. So I've been saying, yeah, those kingdoms over there now, why those names over there and where those names come from. He didn't want to go into that, because that's what most of those modern day West African terms, place names and stuff over there come from. The old place names from over here that they ain't getting rid of. So she right too. So she's saying her land is America, and he's saying no, her land is Africa. Even though she been to America first, which that would make her land America. But regardless of the fact, what was West Africa at that time spread from Peru to what we call today as West Africa. So he helping in the marginalization of that by disregarding this fact. She more on point, even though she don't know the details. One thing she do know is her black ass home. Here. And these right here backing her up, her claim up like a mafia. Ain't nobody can rebut these. I already 2 years and ain't rebutted yet. So let's continue. The natives of Futata promised the Catholic to pay the tribute, which they gave to the ancient kings, the Moors, not being to exclude that the scenario, and we'll get into that in the next video, de los Guzmanes of the Guzmans were reminiscent of the kinship with the reigning family. The Catholic does not seem to refer to her own lineage in 1473. So the reigning family been more from over here that he been connected with. And when she pointed out Enrique de Guzman as a person of royal lineage, nor does he refer to the House of Castile in 1478, swearing by my faith as who I am from the royal lineage and I come. The origin is exotic and doubtful. The sixth Duke of Medina Sidonia wanted to erase it, along with the memory of an Isabel de Fonseca, or dry fountain. And that's one of the most of America who been in that ancient royal line that married into Guzmans. So you see Spain try to erase that fact. Called ethnic cleansing. And a lot of them have been doing that because of the blood quantum rules. We'll get into that at the end. Popularly known as the Duchess of the Roquinas. I do not agree with the first Duke of Medina, but the mother of the second raising her arms in the courtyard of the convent of San Isidoro and Santi Ponce, two squids separated by a dagger and a field of purple and lozenge, symbol of a free woman, because he did not want to marry in the face of the church. So they really ain't really Christians, but at the end of times with the Christians ruling these Guzmans. So they crypto. It is framed by arches feathers like that of this companion, which replaces the castle and the lions of the royal house by a border with 4 lions on a cross, of which a different origin, such as that ones that I include under Guzman Calderas on the facade of San Lucan Church. So they were more ancient in their customs than the Catholics themselves and Castile. They began right from Brazil, like we saw in the last video, was customs. Gali Barba with the province of Kakima, calling by Tierra, calling the earth by other names, Kingdom of Mesa and Azamor, Vudera with the city of Tagails, where the fortress of Agils and the house of Agade were. And she getting this all from the Guzman records and the Fonseca. And the house of Agadir were the port of Nul, that the Ifani with its castle, Ufran, Tamarmarte, and Tagamart, and Tiki Gunt, and Auladamar. And that's just right here is important to know how widespread they've been. All in the Cape and in the islands of Aguirre, such as the port of Gugardi and the province of Tusani, 8 days from the port of Aitudale. We see a lot of these terms like this, even though it's hard to find these exact ones. Like she said earlier, it changed so much based off phonetics that you wouldn't see exactly spell saying, but you definitely see a lot of terms like that. Province of Catalit and the islands and Teninos, a Cabo de Mogador in the Kingdom of Morocco, and in addition to Talgit, Tiredi, and Tetinets. See, and she put all that so you would know that a lot of these places they ain't never move overseas. So it don't much exist nowhere no more, but the record book showing these places in Morocco. And it keeps saying the islands, which means we're dealing with plush lands, we're dealing with places like this. Islands everywhere. That's our silence. The islands of the Cape of Aguirre, and this basically is the Amazon. It's where the Amazon come out at. She said that's where the Cape of Aguirre come out at, and right here is where the Amazon. I think they still call it Amazon. Yeah, you see, Amazon. So the Amazon come all the way from over here, all the way across. And they still ain't find that map, but they got a map of North Africa, and they showing you a big wiggly line going through the map all across to the end of the map on the other side. And they were like, hold up, ain't no goddamn river like that over here. So that map messed up. They got that map showing you this side as North Africa, with that damn line going across the top. At first, I thought that was just a map and they drawing a line blocking off the territories up here with the rest of the territories down there. But I think that's what they thought in the Amazon. The islands are densely populated and unstable. We placed them comprising the province of Taylor and Guarda, or Gaidar, for some in Gran Canaria, and for those of Gran Canaria and Berberia. The port and province of Zebedique, with that of Tillit, 8 days from the port of Turucuco, and now we getting on this other side. She basically started from Morocco and going all the way to where Fez been. You see these desert areas right here been throwing this people out too, because they're writing about deserts. So take you all the way back to North Africa again, but you see we in deserts over here too. It's hard to see. It always on the coast though. And then you get into green. And that right there, a bunch of deserts. These places ain't Macar, Andalusia, and Grenada for nothing. The Guzman grandson was the lord of a mysterious island of Ardeles. So, she finding records of places that don't even exist no more on in our modern day time. Her great grandson of the Canary Islands and the great great grandson of the Cabo Aguirre Islands. So she know by title that it used to have been called by them, the Ardeles Islands. Then it became known as Canaries. Then to them, they started calling it Cabo Aguirre. From the son who inherited the founder of the house, we only know that he was born in Morocco. So that's why she know that this mysterious island is a place where it's called Morocco. Even at his time, at the beginning of this house, 1270 something, I think. And he fought together with this convent of Saint Ponce against the Almoforjafres of Seville. So you see, Moors been putting them in the little hockey and the systems, collecting the fuss. That's just like what happened. This ain't not being what the plantation system is or the colonization system is in our times. But that's how all the years Moors been doing unto them. So they fighting against that in Seville at this time, to be able to continue taking the oil from the harvest by sea. Alright, so we done with reading right for this video. In the future we will get into a lot of the details when it comes to the numbers. They putting a lot of numbers out there, especially on website with the ships and the records of the numbers. We're gonna show you how all that, they don't even know, they ain't even got no evidence, and they inflating those numbers. We see old Moorish. European. Shipbuilding. You see the idea of what's going on. You see like a Moorish flag up there too. Jurisdiction. We talk about Magellan. I mean, Magellan dealt with this area. That's the Straits of Magellan. Now I call it Uruguay River. Let me see. But you can find maps. That's the Straits of Magellan. You see where he found when he went to the Straits of Magellan. More, of course. Because again, you got Scrabble with on record saying Ethiopians on both sides of the sea. This one called Ethiopic Sea. So when they getting people from Africa, they ain't gotta go this far. They got Africa right here. Another half of it. They gotta know that because they're using that term and they don't know that they're already in Africa. Then they calling themselves foreigners to their own home. Well, a lot of their family ancestral bones in the ground. That's a sad thing of they tricking people who got ancestral bones in the ground that they ain't home. So you're gonna take out these people's ancestors and do what you wanna do. Now you see, Europe, that's what you call benefactory. This term is of a form of benefactory. And it's just like today, also in government, we gotta pay the tax. Knights. These been for sponsorships, benefactories and stuff like that. And we see the Holy Roman Empire, Europe, deep into America. Martinus. Let's see, I red and white. Always got the crown on. You see the two keys dealing with the forts, the keys that we to these ports, like the key to Cabo de Aguirre, to symbolize jurisdictions. And again, you got the crown on. And again, these illustrate Moorish American, because Moorish America was just the western portion of this Atlantean Moorish Empire, ancient and modern. Basically, all these kingdoms. So places like Belarus, so much more architecture. You'd be like, what the? And you got Estonia, Bavaria. We can find so much these things, but you gotta understand this ancient history dealing with the Ottoman and what happened over here. We already look a little bit into it, where we could get much more into it in the later videos with the Slavic states and the old Ottoman kingdoms. What happened with that? But now we just focus on the Western. You still there today. You still got plenty more in Europe today. They just saying no how long they been there or not. And you got plenty in America, of course. So it coincides with this ancient story. Just being told other things. We got Carlos V, the Incas. And you got Isa at the top with the crown on. And the red kid. You see at the top, De los Sitios. You got the Admirable. And admirable is like how we see Muhammad, which is praiseworthy, saying things. Just a different way they use that science. And until now, they've been in Israel. In Peru by an Israel jurisdiction. And the guardians of God. Don Diego de Almagro, and I forget his name, Pizarro. And you see Carlos V, Carlos V. We see Felipe II, Felipe Tercio III, Felipe IV, the fourth, Carlos II, and Felipe Quinto. So you see her sons, he started to amalgamate with her sons. Philip the fourth. You see Red Cape Gang, you see that the same Moorish outfit we find across as the Canaanites. Same type of thing. It's like they scratch his crown off his head. And you see the Russian icons. Show you the real Moabites. donkey. Symbolism of Balaam. Architecture. On the seas. The Caciques. And again, the custom of putting that right there. Again, we find that in North Africa too, right? On the Moors of North Africa. North America, they definitely used the term caciques with our families back in them days. I find that in the records all over North America. You can see the gold plates. And you got the beads and rosary. Philadelphia being the new Rome. Morocco / Morocco. Philadelphia. So of course they put a lot of the Indian thing out there. And you see the hockey in the systems. There's the benefactor at the top of it. Basically the encomienda system. Labor. Again, you see the animal stuff on top of his head too, right? At the Cacique. Her head. I keep thinking this might be most likely the queen. By her foot. And some Mamluk in the corner. See, that's what they were talking about when they say white Moorish. Because they only really been even really the order of Islam and the order of Christ. So people were either one of the two influences at that time in the world. One or the other. Depiction of gold mines. We talked about the gold mines that they've been trying to use. They need contracts to supply Negroes, quote unquote, of Guinea for the Spanish America. Your depiction. You see right here, fix the status of Africans as slaves. So you see, everything done with pain. Drake again, so you know he ain't calling them blacks and not that. He calling them Summeroons, even though that ain't correct. They still know he used the term black, and they still switching to Negro slaves and black. But you see the depiction. Remind me of the woman you find in Brazil, industrious. And then they had the tobacco pipes, is it? Peace pipe. But they understand how to deal with this industry, and none of these European factories or companies could have survived without these Moors. So they have to either trick them by contracts, or the same way they do us in the bad deals. That's like today. We're supposed to be getting paid in real money, constitutional money called SOPA. So there are a lot of unpaid payments that they owe these people. Florida, America, number 14, born Florida, good Florida. And he got on the thing like the Spaniards, like Carlos them boy too. You got the sun cap, just like we see in Brazil, and the sun right there representing the temple of the sun. Floridaner. And that's another good point. A Carolinian, a Virginian, a Floridaner. All these people have been dark-skinned people. These early states already been formed by us. That's another thing they ain't want nobody to know, definitely. The several states. And if you see on and then they show Crazy 8, and they call it Crazy 8s. Something like that. You see Denzel Washington in the Western, and he keep telling them he been a bounty hunter in 7 states. Like the Circle 7, in the 7 states and Indian Territory, which he mean Washington Territory. So he been counting out Maricanos, the several states that united their states, and those lands off the colony. So they been spreading propaganda back then. But you see captivity been the name of the game in that era. That's why Noble Jolly call it the era of slavery. And it's a new era of time. Look, Black Hawk. That's from the early days of demonizing you. Still doing it now on the media every night, reporting every story about you and nobody else. A woman and 3 children of the Pusputuk tribe. Medicine woman. We talked about in the last video. We see Asia, Africa, Europe, and America, allegorical. And like I said in the last video to Umar Johnson, if you so fall in love with the term Africa, because that term, when people hear that, they see it, connected to dark skinned people. And the term America also is too. They're just stealing that from you. You can either be a sucker and let somebody take your bike, or you can claim your bike. One of the earliest depiction of America, and you see that wiggly line like that. That's where I can show you that map in the next video. Africa flipped the other way, but you still got this wiggly line going across. Probably supposed to be right here. It's the Amazon. And you see a city already there. They don't like to show this map because it's an early map, 15 or something, and it shouldn't even be no map like this that early. Unless you already done been for a while, because you know about the place names going all the way around the whole continent. So it's the John Cabot map. You know, Wikipedia, they say they reached that John Cabot predate your boy. Basically, all you see is Moors, and you see the Moors and Christians fighting. Yeah, man, with the afro. South American Indian. Drugu Indian. Say some of the Orinoco tribes are the Otomacs, something like Ottoman, right? Have a custom in time of scarcity of stopping the pangs of hunger with greasy earth, which they could give no nourishment. So I guess they really get into nothing important. Yeah, I see this one. And camel. They call it llama on the outside. Try to look like ain't no camel. And again, you find these plates, these circle plates on them. And the story goes that they were carrying goals on the back of camels, and that's the story of North Africa. What we see right here, they got sit on the back of camels. The races of mankind, Indian of California. The chief of Honduras. As you can see, we in the far West Africa. If you want to make it look like Africa is equated with dark-skinned people, then we in the far western parts. I think there's some more natives of California, if I'm mistaken. Seminole. Seminole. So-called Seminole, so-called Summeroon. We are, all these people are Moors. those same kingdoms that he was talking about that predate these modern day ones: Venezuela, Peru, Brazil, Florida. We even got those. We even can give you those place names for the most part. All we do know is of its existence based off the ancient annexations of Hanno, the navigator. They already give us their claim. So they're on the back of an alligator. Tobacco symbolism. You always been there. And now everybody been in the same status, situations, stuff like that. Just like today. They don't even know to call a black or Indian. They just know that he dark skinned and he in America. So the people who caption this, they confused because they don't really know the true history. That Moors in America is synonymous because it's their land. And they been here and got the oldest kingdoms on record. You see that red and white too. And the missions of California going deep into recording everything they could find. That's what a Jesuit, the church would have called on the slave thing, Negroes and pirates. Right here they call them red and black. So we follow time and history backwards and forwards. We know what changed. What changed is the languages, because black is English, Negro is Spanish. Of the Spanish predate the English, so we go back. So what they been calling them? They were calling them pirates. And they also let us know that they would come from places where other so-called Negroes and pirates that they gather. But these Moors Indian schools, St. Benedict the Moor schools, and all kinds of different schools where they reconstruct you. Can't really see this one, but people had they say from a Castizo and a Spaniard make a Spaniard. Let's see, Castizo, well, he is Castizo, and she is a Spaniard, España. And the child get to be an Espanol, because basically Spain the one who writing it, so the man who writing will always favor themselves off the top in the caste system. And some more Moorish Americans. Everybody get into the caste systems of America. See, it's same tobacco symbolism, ostrich feathers. So we know a Moroccan definitely is an American. We see in North America the same symbolism. We see the robe around them. There's some more Moorish Christianity. got a crown on, of course. He also got the chin lick, the Spaniard, the low hanging one. Pearls all over the outline of pearls. But the nobility we find these is off the chin. Can't arrest these people as to give us or no one. Now that's what I hate interesting because like when I read up on these little stuff around the neck, it's a symbolism of a slave being captured, a captive or something like that. And the parrot also is a symbolism of America. But one thing I always say, they be clean as hell. Which really always be contradictory to me, because they clean as hell, but that's on their neck. Like, so could it be somebody coming and draw that later on these people? Because I would think a slave would be more, with no jewelry on at least. You see more what they call Indian conquistadors. You see the nice little Christ symbol. Excuse me. You see them in the back still under Moorish influence. Yeah, Turkish crown. Definitely ain't wrong. They definitely were wrong. They already been out everywhere. Boy, you have to go act like they have to go in Africa to find dark-skinned people for the first time in history. You see, that's right. It made me really believe that this one, the symbolism of enslaved mentally. He got the stuff on his neck too, and he dressed fly as hell. But you can see he take his crown off, and now he got a new god in his mind that don't look like him. So I understand how he can be converted in his mind from his own ways to a new way. But that's how I don't want to look at it. Like, he the devil, he need to be saved. He need God because he ain't got God in his life. Like they always say, los sin Dios, lost without God. You have to get a God. See, these motherfuckers ran it. They ran it. This name Principe, the Prince. Henrique, Don Henrique, 1845. So you know the Enriquez and all the boys we talk about that predate him, and his fathers. And you got that same little thing around his waist, Knights of Christ, Order of Christ. All right, you don't see us when we talk about history as more dealing with the modern day aspect of what people think religion is and all that shit. We just go by what we find. Made no more. It matter what the religion. It could have been a Buddhist. That's a story more. And you get to understand the customs. Get closer into it, whatever one suits you best. Go for it. A big ass book. Knowledge is power. All these nobles, one thing they had been knowledge. How to read and write. Everybody got ground to. Bunch of kings of these little kingdoms all over. Big ass Moroccan musket up there. Another king and family. Oh, I say Rome got all these history. That's why when you look at your DNA test in Atlantic kingdoms, where they be trying to act like so-called white man raped you, and that's what black people be saying. So they be like, that don't you related to people over here because you been over here since the ancient world. You've been over here since the ancient world. You've been over here since the ancient world and over here. So your DNA gonna reflect that. Your DNA all over the world by such small percentages that they don't count it. The highest percentages they gonna show you, which is basically telling you your most closest relations. I mean, these pictures we can see you everywhere. I'm trying to look back there and see a big ass castle. Boy, been wearing skinny jeans back then. This is down. The fuck is that? That's right here showing you he had know about the whole world. Both sides, nigga. years, but Morrison, son of the Moors. That's what I was trying to say. We got so much how people named Morrison run around, but they ain't know they Moors. And Morris. And there's so much different versions like Amaru. Plenty different versions in America that go about head because we lose a lot of this knowledge. More of these kids, old, full, Andalusian kings, Christian kings, stole more. Or we Jerusalem, or we had Jerusalem. Say Mari, Latin for Moors. I'm at the Algarve, the West. Algarvia, the country of the West. Corsica, of course. Sardinia, red and white. Cordoba. Algeriere, Jerusalem. More language. See the Knights of Christ. Let me see if I can see anything else, and it looked like he got the Han China imperial crown. He got the Roman imperial crown. So much stuff we ain't paying no attention to and shit in our face. That's Holy Roman Empire. That's why in America you see all the tribes, see all the Moorish people, us, with these European names and street names, because we started doing business with these Moors, left back and forth, and we don't forget. Let's create Rome. More elephants like Hannibal. It's a depiction of a native in Andalusia, Indian. Of course, that's what they're going to use. See the parrot representing. And the same sun shit, we see it a couple times. He got the red, white, and the green colors. It's interesting how they looked at Indians in their books, Andalusia. Red Cape gang member. Crown, and he got the sun and the moon, star and crescent. Temple of the sun and the moon. Another thing I always see too is these boots that they give to all the superheroes and comics. In fact, Batman, we saw in one of the videos, was one of the idols of the Moorish groups in America, the Batman. He had the bat wings, even a man, half bat, half man, Batman. I already know the Superman story. They straight steal from my. And again, the keys to the forts. Tobacco symbolism. That's another thing that they get, that they can't get away from, that the Indians is known having the tobacco and the peace pipe symbolism of America, the Indians of America, right? So now we're seeing that in the so-called Moorish Moroccan cultures, customs, so-called African customs. Pastor Juan, the king of Ethiopia. Which there been many of them, because they've been talking about both sides of Ethiopia, and any Moorish Christian gang they could have found where they get that symbolism. Or king of Congo. He's dealing with Rome. Rome going to consolidate everything. So they ain't get where he at. If he Christian, he dark skinned, that's Pastor Juan. Il Priete Ioane Red Ethiopia. The Pastor Juan, king of Ethiopia. Let me see. Rome. 1600. When you had to stay crowd like the King of Fez. Since the King of Fez ain't had a cross on top of us, he had a crescent on top of us. Order of Islam and Order of Christ. We could get into a lot of that. The next video could be, of course, a lot of reading. That's why I read in this one, just talk about it. You see the red and white, and this little shell is important. The black man and the woman of Santo Domingo. You got a red and white. And a little green, like the same one Andalusian had. And Andalusian Indian. That's fast. the Marabout, and the blacks, and the island of St. Louis in the Senegal, which can be anyway. We see a lot of St. Louis. And again, I don't see how back then they been believing people been having children like this, looking like this. I don't see that today. But yeah, a lot of these, what they call them, going backwards, was just touring the artists. But I want to show us Hoodwink, some European guy named Hoodwink who wastes all his life worrying about morals on YouTube, making videos every day, wasting his life worrying about other people. Been trying to say they ain't never been called Albions because the place been called Albion because of the white cape. Well, you see right here, this is Espanol and Albina. They call her Albina. So you're wrong, sir. He was called Albions. Albina and Albino. That term was used. They say en español and a mestiza make a castiza. So plenty of terms and names for other people too. But we ain't concerned with these people, we concerned with our history. They need to be concerned with their own history. Stop talking about ours. Stop making history about us. We can do it. We ain't stupid. And Espanol and India. And that's what they call her, India. Which is still a subject of Spain and Rome. And a mestiza. Espanol and India make a mestiza. Another one, Albina. It's very interesting. It needs to be studied. Can't even read that one, but I think it's another India. That's my favorite one right here, but they call him the Black. No, he's the Moral. What an India. He just like the dawn around this motherfucker. But let's see, he already here. And his children been called Lobos. You can see at the end how all this BS. The displacement of a bunch of people. So you see they stick with Negro because they displacing him. As morals, he home and he under treaties internationally. That's the only difference. And that because he liked the word more over the word black. Like they try to make him like that's what we telling them to just follow this word. Like we try to sign them up to our club. Or we telling you history and we telling you the truth. Your ass will know better, you do better. And try it wherever you at on this planet. Try call yourself that. Have other people call you that. Tell them that you don't answer the shit else about that. And watch the respect you get and how they move around. And that's why they call her a China. They call the child a Kambuya. So they got Chinas and Chinos. Chinas and Chinos. And Chino we still use, still come down. But they said that the Negro and the India mix a China Kambuya. Because what the Spanish do know is that when they came with dark skin and like people like this all over, and we've been telling you people coming from the western portions too, from Asia. The Spaniel, the Negra, Moorish woman Mora, and of course mulattoes. Have you seen that definition that say a Moor mixed with any other nation makes a mulatto? So you already know the Moor is supreme in that situation. I'm gonna see it in the Spanish and the Morisca make an albina. So you're getting weird. Getting real weird. And again, the same things. In North America, a lot of these is albino. There are a lot of them who got a lot of our features, dark eyes, hair, stuff like that too. And they call it as white people. So what happened to Espanol? Where he at? He speak English now. He call himself white. What happened to some of these children? These children like this one, they don't much remember they had parents like this out after a while, after a few generations of bleaching out. But I know one thing, ain't no studying or understanding the story of so-called enslavement while understanding caste systems. And that's where all based off. You can't really see that one. Got this red sash. And again, like a bandana around the head or a red sash around the waist. I think those things been symbols of jurisdictions. And they look, you see me with this, you know I'm Moroccan. And why you start to see the pirates when dealing with treaties and try to get around. Espanol in India. Yeah, you can see all the people who they call Indians don't look like us too. Because we got a lot of people in our family. Not everybody in our family is as dark as me and man right there. Some of them is her complexion and lighter, and even her. So again, we can tell that they're just calling people things. They don't know who related to who or what. Based off complexion, they call people names. As you can see right here, there's a lot of free Americans who over here who dark skinned in the early days, just out here chilling. They ain't on no plantation picking cotton. But they'll have you believe that that's all you did until Abraham Lincoln come and help you. But all these are depictions of American people in American places. American caste system paintings. And they even put the fruits in some of them to help you out to know where you at. Fauna and flora. So we'll read up on what they're talking about some of these. And that'll be the end of this video. There are also inconsistencies in the terminology used between series. In Castor painting of an Indian male and a loba give rise not to an albarazado, as in the series of Miguel Cabrera by the Zambigo. So you see, like Zamba. These names never had any application in daily life nor any legal scope, but without a doubt they reflected a certain mentality of the period where skin color was a sign of social distinction and access of economic privilege. So you can see when the race thing started coming with these, because you see people who've been married and having children, and they keep out that complexions until the Spanish, what they hating themselves, they old moral self, and the black quantum rules start to use that as you most likely, if you like skin complexion, well, we don't know who got Moorish blood or not, but we can, the ones who dark skin, we know for a fact they got them off the top. So that started to become a mark or a thing for to recognize the holy enemy. So in fact, official documents only use the term caster to generally designate those whose ethnic mix distinguishes them from Spaniards or Native American Indians. No further details are obtained, and possibly of crossing racial lines does not feature. The picturesqueness of the paintings to which we refer is evident that in the use of terms like tente en el aire and mid-air, salta outras, leap back, and torna outras, throwback, and no te entiendo, I don't understand you. So they've been putting that on some of them people, like, I don't even know what this is no more, etc. And their names can be hurtful. For example, Lobo, wolf, for designating a descendant of a Cambuyo, man and a woman. Coyote, for characterizing the descendants of an Indian male and a mestiza female, Barcino. So you see, people are calling the people coming over the border as the coyotes. And you can see they still using these old terms. This is a zoological term that alluded to animals with colored spots to portray the child of the albarazado and the mestiza, or the cambuyo, as a term in Spain used to describe black-colored birds to designate a cross between blacks and Native Americans. So you see, again, they be using terms like parrots and these taxonomy terms. That's what the United States is doing with the SF151 form. They if you read the definition of the black and African American, what that's supposed to mean to them, it could mean animals the way they define it. It could mean animals in law. They ain't define it perfect enough to make it precisely mean a thing. So it could be interpreted to mean anything dark black, animals, plants, things. So it's a sad case that they got people checking that box, knowing damn well they can assume that in law as to be animals. You on taxonomy, they use the term negra and neger, and taxonomy terms when they name animals and plants. And they use the term Africanus. They use America to use continent names, but definitely using colors in zoology terms, taxonomy. So that's it for this. In the next one, we get to some numbers. We'll go through our numbers that we got on who for these so-called Spanish colonies, what these so-called Negroes and where they come from, how they been captured, was they been captured, or was they just stocks, paper stocks. You had that. You had again haciendos. You wake up on a plantation because you were working for one. You were working for your uncle. They overthrew your uncle, and now you working for somebody else, and they brutalizing you now. Stuff like that. So, peace till next time.